like to have Fresno State come into your home and say, hey, we want you to be a Bulldog?
It was exactly what I planned. I mean, I took advantage of all my visits, my official visits, but in the back of my head, I was waiting for that phone call from Coach Lisa, and she called. And for those of you that know Coach Lisa, she literally talked to me. I had to plug in my phone by the end of the conversation because she wasn't going to let me get off the phone without making some kind of commitment. So it was a great honor to hear from her and for her to ask me to come to her school.
Any thoughts going into next week in Austin, Texas?
You know what? We literally had practice right before this, and Coach Lisa and I were talking about it. I'm approaching this meet like I've approached every other meet. Going into it, cool, calm, and collective. To be honest with you, it's funny. In the past meets, I have really had to conjure up that adrenaline and that will to muscle out the discus. However, this semester things are just clicking so naturally. If I go into it with that mentality, things kind of tend to crash, and we've kind of seen that earlier on in the year. So to answer your question, just go into it, relax, do what I know how to do.
Give us your most memorable moment as a Bulldog on the track.
You know, I was blessed. My first year on the team, we got to go to Hawaii for our conference track meet, and we had a lot of good time. The last day we were there, coaches gave us a day to do whatever we wanted, and so one of my best friends, he's here with us, Derek. He and I went down to the beach 8 o'clock in the morning. We want to get our spot picked, and we also wanted to get a good tan. So I decided to get a Speedo. Okay. Now my thighs have never really seen the sun. All right. We were told to be back to the hotel by about 5 in the evening, so we laid out for about 13 hours. Didn't think anything of it. On the plane on the way home, for those of you that were there, remember I was in the bathroom the whole time, throwing up from poison sickness, had blisters on my thighs. Wasn't really fun at the time, but looking back on it, that's definitely got to be the most memorable moment.
Well, that came out of nowhere. I didn't expect to hear that. Give us your most memorable moment as an athlete in competing.
Most memorable moment as an athlete. You know, I would say the last home meet we had, my grandma's been facing some illnesses and some terminal illnesses, and she was able to feel okay enough to come and watch me throw, and I actually had a very successful day. So that was probably my most memorable day as an athlete.
Oh, that's touchy. What are your thoughts, and how has your preparation been getting ready for the regionals?
Kind of to answer your last question, we're doing everything the same. Nothing's going to change, especially with Coach Lisa. I mean, she preaches constantly on consistency, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be consistent. Today's workout was just as consistent as the others, and same with throwing. Consistency. I'm going to go into it mentally, physically prepared, I believe. Yeah.
Describe to us, as we close out, the day of your preparation. What is your the day of the event? What's your preparation?
It's funny you ask that. Lately, see, I wake up at 4 o'clock every morning, naturally. So lately, Coach Lisa's been making me stay up till 2, 3 o'clock at night. So I sleep in until 9, 10 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm fresh for throwing. I wake up. I'm a nervous eater, so I literally eat all day. I have 10 to 12 cups of coffee, which I know that's not legal, but I drink a lot of coffee and I just chill. Last week, Derek and I played golf on our phones for 4 hours before we went to the meet, so just hang out. Just hang out.
Well, next we got our special guest, Lacey Barnes, former Fresno State great. Olympian, All-American.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
All right. I like to ask everyone, how did you get started in track? What was the start for you?
When I first began, it was a little while ago, 7th grade. I was a sprinter, actually, and the end of my 7th grade year, I had to have a kidney removed. I was diagnosed with cancer, and when I came back that next year, I wasn't as limber as I should. I'd go out and I'd do my little running, and I keep pulling muscles, and so instead of letting me quit, the coaches I had at the time basically just pulled out a shot put and a discus and said, here, throw this. And that's how I began throwing. And they actually taught me how to throw the discus incorrectly. We figured that out later.
So you were successful despite of some bad coaching.
Yes.
A lot of that out there. So all right. So you managed to also win some championships back in the OPC2A.
Yeah.
What was that like? Being a champ.
Again, collegiately, I never really quite experienced it. I was a national champion before. I never became an NC2A champion. But just competing in general, I think it was the camaraderie and the friendship that competing against different people, you look forward to that. And as a matter of fact, I was telling Coach Lisa, I just made Connie Price Smith is a gal I competed with years ago. We kept in touch, and throughout these competitions, she was really one of the people that you build a long-lasting relationship. We just made our tickets to the Dominican, and we go once a year. We take a week out of our schedule to get together. So that's part of the competition. You're competing against one another, but you also the camaraderie and the friendships, I think, have been long-lasting.
What was the feeling to get that throw and know that you were going to be an Olympian?
I didn't think about that. Because that would have really probably done me in. We literally just execute the movement. Execute the movement. You practice, and nobody works really, really hard to go out there and screw up. So it was just executing the movement. I knew I had trained to do what it is that I needed to do, and so the third throw was really all about, if you do this right, the distance will take care of itself. And fortunately, in that moment, it worked.
All right, so now you compete in the Olympics. What's that like?
I will tell you, look, back up before the competition. I can remember getting to the Olympic Village and being a little annoyed, quite frankly, because I'm like, is this it? I don't work 12 years for this. And I just didn't feel it. And I think what did it for me is we were at the Olympic Village, and the first family came to the village. And it was Clinton at the time, and he actually spoke to the American team, and in his Bill Clinton sort of way, you know how important this is, and he talked about how this was the first non-boycotted Olympics that had happened in a long time, and he said, I was over at the Chow Hall the other day, and I saw something that I couldn't believe. He said, I saw North and South Koreans sitting at the same table, and he said, do you know how long I've been trying to get North and South Koreans to sit at the same table? And I think in that moment, I was like, ah! At that point, I think, wow, I really was part of something that was historic. And so that's when I really, really started to take it in.
And so now you've transferred into doing teaching, and then now you're doing stuff to help teachers.
Yes, I never had any career aspirations, but I find myself with a lot of titles and a lot of letters, and I just can't seem to help myself. I did finish at Fresno State with both my bachelor's and master's in psychology, and after I finished, I decided to go back for my PhD, and so I went down to Claremont, got my PhD in psychology, and I never had career aspirations, but right after I finished my master's degree, I actually fell into a teaching tenure position out at Reedley College, and I've been with State Center Community College District for going on 20 years now. I've transferred out of the classroom, if you will, and now I am the president of the State Center Federation of Teachers, and it represents all of the faculty, both full-time and part-time, at Fresno City College, Reedley College, Clovis Community College, Madera, and Oakhurst. I that work has also allowed me to be the senior vice president for California Federation of Teachers, so I do state level work. And what I really like is my policy work that I do with the National American Federation of Teachers that takes me back east a couple times a year.
You're still getting back east, with or without track.
I am.
Well, we want to thank you for coming out today and sharing your unique story with us. And let's give her a round of applause. Our special guest today is Roger George. Roger, thank you for coming on.
Hey, I'll tell you what, thanks for having me.
Tell us about your experience at Fresno State. What was it like to be a Bulldog back then?
You know, what we're known for and what the whole program was about was just having people that were underachievers that had a chance and a good coaching staff. And, you know, I can't tell you, Red and Dutch Forward Dam were absolutely critical to that. They brought a mentality to the track program where we were known nationally as being tough, very, very tough. Underachievers who achieved great things, but were not necessarily the sharpest tool in the shed, but we made up for it in tenacity and just perseverance and just who we believe we were. And it's amazing to this day, I believe Fresno State Track, people that I know from many years ago still hold us in that kind of regard.
You do a really tough event. Do you recall your marks in the events?
Yeah, you know, and as a decathlete, I guess that's one of the things you're always shooting for. You want to have marks. You want to bring marks to the table that are extraordinary. And you know, I'm proud that I had a kind of across the board. I was pretty level. Bruce Jenner and I were very much similar. I ran 10.7 on the 100 meters, so I wasn't really a super fast guy. I jumped 24.10 and 3/4 in the long jump, so I was just under 25 the long jump. Carl Lewis's coach was my coach before I started jumping, so I had a phenomenal coach there. I threw the shot put right at 50 feet at 16. I high jumped 2 meters 4, 6.8 3/4. I jumped 6.8 a couple times, and I ran had the NC2A decathlon record 48.7 for the 400. The hurdles, my best mark there was 14.2 in the hurdles, so I was a good hurdler. Discus, I had Mac Wilkins was my coach when I was with Athletics West. I threw just under 160 on the discus. I vaulted 16 in decathlon. I threw close to 220 with javelin. I ran 4:14 for the 1,500 meters. So nobody liked to run against me in 1,500 meters because that bulldog toughness. I ran a lot of people down. I think Red could tell you that too.
What was it like to be alternate on the team?
Well, I have an interesting, since we have track people here, I'll tell you a story that very few people know. I ended up, it came down to the 1,500 meters, and Jim McKay was actually narrating on Wide World of Sports. I had to beat the other guy, Fred Samara, by 17 seconds. And so I had my work cut out for me, but I was, I was a good 1,500 meter runner. And I took off and ran, and it was pandemonium. Bruce was running for a world record. I was running to try to beat the team. So it was, the crowd at Eugene was absolutely, it was filled to capacity. It was just pandemonium. I couldn't hear myself think. And it was one of those moments in time where you're going like, you're running for your life. And I ended up, I lost by about 2.5 seconds. So I lost by just a little bit. So I ended up, I was the alternate on the team, and that's just the way it was. Well, that's not the end of the story. A year later, the Olympic coach, Sam Adams, came to me, and actually the way it turned out, during the meet, electronic timing was not perfected back in '76. So we had hand times and electric times. Well, the electronics failed for some of the heats, and the way it turned out was that, so they had to go to hand time because some of the heats didn't have full electric. Well, Sam came to me and said, Roger, we had to go to hand, but we had all the other information. And I hate to tell you, he took me out in the field and walked with me because he says, I can tell you this, but we're 90% sure that you were the third man, that you actually made the team. Wow. That was not a fun conversation.
How did you keep a positive attitude while training and still being off?
The guy that ended up was the third man going, Fred Samara. Fred got injured, and he has the option to go or not go, and he decided to go. He had a terrible Olympics, and for him it was not a good experience. But, all you can do is try to go and just be totally prepared. And I was, very prepared. You know, I felt like I could have done very well, but you know, once again, you do what you got to do, and I tell the story to all of you because that's the story of the Olympics in most cases, where people lose by thousandths of a second. You know, you see that in swimming or gymnastics or track and field. I just happen to be one of the recipients of it, which you hope don't happen to you.
You seem to have such a great attitude. You obviously kept running afterwards? Or?
Yes, yeah, I kept running. I actually kept going, and I actually became a professional athlete with Nike, and I was on Athletics West. And so I actually ended up with a situation that was probably, I had a lot of gold medalists that came to me, Olympic gold medalists that came to me with, Roger, how can we get on the team with you? There was 30 of us that originally were on the team. So maybe you remember Mary Decker and Alberto Salazar, and then we had Mac Wilkins, the gold medalist, the world record holder in discus, and Alf Bierbach. And so we had this star-studded field, and they asked me, I was one of the two decathletes. And so we had a shop like this, and we had a big facility they built for us, for 30 of us, and I could walk into the room and just go, Aaron, you know, close your ears here. I could walk in and go, I want that row of shoes, and I want that stuff, I want that. It was to the ceiling, and I'd walk out with $2,000 worth of stuff, think nothing of it. It was just carte blanche, and that they had money to burn. So that's the reason why during the winter it got cold in Eugene, and they said, "Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Well, we're going to Arizona." So they put us in a first class hotel, and we went down to Arizona to train for 2 months in 75-degree weather, and that's what you call living. That was as good as it gets.
Great story, and we appreciate you coming out today and sharing that. I didn't know the situation with the timing. That was the one that got away, so to speak, in the fishing world.
That's the one that got away. Yep, exactly. And you know, I'm excited about the program at Fresno State. I think there's a lot of people out there that are just like all the people here that have an intense desire to see the track and field program at Fresno State, you know, reach the pinnacle. Reached the same pinnacle that it was at before. It was a highly respected program on a national level that year in and year out produced champions. And you know what? I'm excited to see that attitude back in this, and I'm willing to do whatever I can to make this work. And I've talked a lot to Jim Bartko about this whole thing. I take him fishing so I can talk to him. And so I'm excited about all of you as athletes that are here, that you guys have put the time and the work into it and see your results. And with what Scott has done, I'm amazed, and I'm just honored to help this team. A lot of people are waiting for this. Just hang in there. I think that you're going to see a lot of great things happen.
Wow, well, thank you. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for those words. Appreciate it. Have a good one.